Hello.
Hello.
Hello,
I'm Anne-Marie.
I'm Sally.
and I'm Doug. We are the ICE team, and welcome to our Easter Assembly.
Now, there might be lots of different things you think of when it comes to Easter. Maybe you think of chocolate eggs, maybe think about bunnies, chicks, new life, hot cross buns, perhaps.
But perhaps the biggest thing we can think about at Easter time is hope.
In fact, we celebrate Easter because of something that happened 2,000 years ago, and yet it still gives hope to billions of people today.
So, in the next few minutes, we're going to tell you a story. We're going to spend some time thinking about hope, and then there'll be some time for you to reflect and to discuss things with the people sat next to you.
Two travellers set off on a journey. Up until 3 days before, they had been followers of Jesus. But now, they didn't know what they were anymore. They had watched Jesus teach crowds, heal people, and do amazing miracles. They had hoped that Jesus would be the person God had sent to rescue Israel. But then, they had seen Jesus get arrested by the Romans. He was accused of things he hadn't done. They saw him die on a cross. And finally, he was buried in a tomb. It looked like the person they had put so much hope in was dead and gone. With broken hearts and downcast faces, they decided to go back home from Jerusalem to the village of Emmaus.
I love sports. The drama, the passion, the fact your heart gets into it, absolutely love it. I love watching it and playing it, and I especially love football. But sometimes sport can be a heartache too. Like, I was playing football the other week. It was a really close game. The other team scored early on, but we kept at them. We kept pushing, and finally, about 10 minutes before the end, we got our crucial equaliser. The whole team was lifted, enthused by the fact that all our hard work had paid off. We were going to get something from this game. We even thought we might sneak a winner. But then, seconds before the game ended, they scored. They hit us on the counter. We didn't get enough defenders back. It was 2-on-1 versus the keeper, and the ball smashed into the back of the net. We looked at our watches, hoping there'd be enough time to boot the ball back up the field, try and get something. But the whistle went. The other team rejoiced, and we were crushed. Our good result, our draw, in just an instant had been taken away. Our hope was gone. And the Easter story starts with a loss of hope too. These people had followed Jesus for 3 years. They'd given up their lives to be with him because they thought that he was the answer. They thought he was the answer to all those big questions that we have. Why am I here? What's the meaning of life? Do I have a purpose? How are we going to put the world right again? They thought Jesus would be the answer to all of them. But then he died, killed by the very people they thought he was going to get rid of, and their hope was gone. I wonder if you've ever felt like that too. Like you've had hope in something, like a good sports result or a competition you were a part of, but it didn't go your way. Or maybe even a piece of work that you'd worked really hard on, you were really proud of, just for it to come back with a really low mark. That loss of hope can be really hard to take. So why don't you turn to the people around you and discuss, have you ever lost hope?
As the travellers walked along the road and talked about everything that had happened, a third person walked up to join them. It was Jesus himself, but God kept them from recognizing him. "What are you talking about?" he asked them. "Are you the only person visiting Jerusalem who doesn't know what's happened?" they replied. They told him about Jesus, about how great this man was that they had followed, but how he had been killed. "And what's more," they continued, "some of our women told us something amazing. They went to the tomb early this morning, but they couldn't find Jesus' body. They told us angels said he was alive. Then some of our friends went to the tomb and found it just as the women said, but they didn't see Jesus." "You are foolish and slow to realize what's true," Jesus told them. "You should believe everything the prophets said." And he began to explain to them everything the scriptures said about himself, from the very beginning. He helped them to understand that his death wasn't an accident, but part of God's plan to bring people back into friendship with him again. Jesus walked and talked with them all the way along the road until they arrived at Emmaus.
Sometimes having someone come alongside you is exactly what you need. Whether that's a teammate or a sibling, a parent, another adult you trust, or usually a friend. In bad times, or in times where you've lost hope, having someone with you can be really important.
So, there was a time in my life where a friend was there for me when I really needed it. It was just during one week when I was working when an issue popped up. It was this issue with a friend I had, and it just took this just heavy toll on me. I mean, you know how it is. You know when you have this issue with a friend, which just causes you just to be all tied up to the point where it just completely just stops everything in your life and just really just gets you down. A different friend of mine recognized this, saw that I was all tied up. So he asked about it and asked if we could talk about it. My friend was there for me. He just dropped everything, just absolutely everything in that moment, just to talk to me about this issue. And he didn't try to fix the issue just like that. He took his time and he helped me find a solution. And I really thank him for that.
Christians believe that no matter their situation, God will always come alongside them. In the Psalms, which is a book of poetry in the Bible, it says God binds up the brokenhearted and heals their wounds. Often, Christians in tough times will pray. Sometimes it can be a really simple prayer, like, "God, I need help," or "Jesus, I need you." And many would attest to the fact that after praying such a prayer, a deep sense of peace comes over them. Who do you turn to in a tough time? Or who turns to you in a tough time? You don't have to be a trained counsellor or someone who knows all the answers to the problem that person's having. Sometimes just coming alongside someone, talking with them, being with them, maybe playing with them, even that can be really, really important when someone is struggling. But take a few moments and think about that for yourself.
It was getting late, and the travellers were almost home. Just as they approached the village, Jesus continued on as if he were travelling further. But the travellers said to him, "Stay with us, the day is almost over." And so he went to stay with them. When they sat down for dinner, Jesus took bread, gave thanks for it, and broke it. At that moment, they were allowed to recognize who he was. But when they saw it was Jesus, he disappeared from sight. Amazed and full of wonder, they thought back to their whole journey along the road. When he talked, didn't it feel like a fire burning in us? It was so exciting when he explained the true meaning of the scriptures. They got up and hurried back to Jerusalem to share the news. When they got there, they met other followers of Jesus who told them, "The Lord has finally risen from the dead. He even appeared to Simon." They shared what had happened to them on the road, and everyone was filled with joy.
It's almost like the end of a murder mystery or an episode of Scooby-Doo. All the characters are gathered in one place and the suspect is revealed. Most of the characters are shocked, but there's always one who claims to know what was going on the whole time. But in this story, when Jesus reveals himself, nobody saw it coming. Now, a thing I love, other than dressing up of course, is art. In fact, it's a shared hobby of mine and my wife's. We love going around art galleries, pointing out paintings to each other, picking out what bits we really like about them and which bits we think are funny or interesting, or something that makes us feel something we really engage with. One of my favourite paintings is at the National Gallery in London, and it's actually the painting of this story. It's called The Supper at Emmaus by an artist called Caravaggio. I love this painting. I love how the artist has perfectly captured the moment that Jesus revealed himself to everyone. But more than that, he's captured the hope that has refilled these characters as they realise that Jesus isn't dead, but is in fact risen from the grave. And everything that he promised and said he was going to do is all going to happen. It's restored hope that, yes, we are here on purpose. Yes, our lives do have meaning. And yes, someone is going to put the world right again. And importantly, that there is life after death. But more than that we are actually saved from the bad stuff in our life. The bad stuff that others have done, but also the bad stuff that we have done. All because of Jesus. As a Christian, I have hope in Jesus. In the knowledge that he's alive and working in the world. And that gives me hope in my life. It's like playing a game of football and already knowing what the end result will be. It doesn't matter how many goals the opposition scores because I know in the end we win. So what about you? Where does your hope come from? And what do you think about Easter and where Christians get their hope from? Thank you for being part of our Easter assembly this morning. We hope you got something out of it. Maybe you learnt something new about Easter.
Maybe you've had a chance to think about why hope is so important to us.
Or maybe you're just really excited to enjoy all of the yummy treats we get to enjoy at Easter.
Whatever the reason or whatever you got out of it, we hope you have a really happy Easter.